Welcome, viewers, to today's broadcast. As usual, my name remains Paul, and today's date is October the 27th, 2024. And our title, today's broadcast, Migrating to the US, Useful Tips, Part 10H. And the subtitle is Visa Waiver Programs. That is, those countries that have free visas to the US. In other words, countries whose nationals can travel to the US without needing a visa. Now, I will try to talk through about having work permits. Maybe if you live in certain countries like Europe, you have the work permit. Maybe if you're from Africa or other parts of the world, but you're living in Europe and then you have a work permit there, or you live in Middle East, Oman, Qatar, Dubai, UAE, and then you have their work permit. How can it help you to come to the US? And or you are in some countries and you have their visiting visas. Okay, now first and foremost, let me start with the names of countries that have visa that can come to the US without visa. In other words, their nationals can come to the US without needing a visa. But there are certain conditions to it, but I will explain as I go on. Now, it's called the Visa Waiver Program. And there are a list of countries in the world that holders of such passports are free to visit the US without needing a visa. So those international passports are regarded as visa-free. Okay? Very important. Now, as of today, as of 2024, there are 42 countries on this list. They include Andorra. And Andorra was given this right in Andorran citizens. They got this right some years back. That's 1991. Then you have Australia. The citizens of Australia can visit the US without needing a visa, and this they got in 1996. You have Austria. They got that right in 1991. You have Belgium. They got that right in 1991. You have Brunei. They got that right in 1993. You have Chile. They got that right in 2014. You have Croatia. They got that eligibility in 2021. You have the Czech Republic. They got theirs in 2008. You have Denmark. They got theirs in 1991. You have Estonia. They got it in 2008. You have Finland. They got the right in 1991. You have France. They got theirs in 1989. You have Germany. They got that right in 1989. You have Greece. They got that right in 2010. You have Hungary. They got that right in 2008. You have Iceland. They got that right in 1991. You have Ireland. They got it in 1995. You have Israel. They got it in 2023. You have Italy. They got the right in 1989. You have Japan. They got that right in 1988. You have Korea. You have the Republic of Korea. They got that right in 2008. You have Latvia. They got it in 2008. You have Liechtenstein, they got the right in 1991. You have Lithuania, they got the right in 2008. You have Luxembourg, they got the right in 1991. You have Malta, they got the right in 2008. You have Monaco, they got the right in 1991. You have Netherlands, they got the right in 1989. You have New Zealand, they got the right in 1991. You have Norway, they got the right in 1991. You have Poland, they got that right in 2019. You have Portugal, they got the right in 1999. You have Qatar, they got the right in 2024. Qatar, oh, very good. You have San Marino, they got the right in 1991. You have Singapore, they got the right in 1999. You have Slovakia, they got that right in 2008. You have Slovenia, they got the right in 1997. You have Spain, they got the right in 1991. You have a few more to go. Now you have Sweden, they got the right in 1989. You have Switzerland, they got the right in 1989. You have Taiwan, they got the right in 2012. And finally, the United Kingdom, they got the right in 1988. So if you look at the list, I didn't hear of any African country. No African country is visa-free to the US. Okay? Now, the question now will be, how does it work? How does it work? How does the program work? So it's an exchange program between these countries and the United States. And so citizens of these countries with their country's passports can actually visit the United States without needing a visa. So their international passport is already a visa in itself. And they come in here, they stay for 90 days. So that exchange program allows citizens of these 42 countries to visit the US and stay for 90 days. Now, those 90 days are usually for tourism and business purposes. Okay? Now, but before they can embark on such trips, now there's what is called ESTA, Electronic System for Travel Authorization. So that trip has to be authorized. So citizens of these countries would need to go online and then go onto the website and then use the electronic system for travel authorization to the US. They have to put in their details, and other necessary information. And then they will have to wait for 1 day or 2 days. Once the clearance comes, then they can now proceed to now buy their flight tickets and stuff like that. But that very ESTA is an essential part. And their stay is for 90 days. 90 days. And the key component of that is that, one, the eligibility. Now, what that means is that only citizens of these specific countries designated under the VWP, meaning Visa Waiver Program, can travel to the US visa-free. That is, these countries, there are 42 of them. they are, majority of them are from Europe. And so their citizens can come to the US just by entering their details on the electronic system for travel authorization. They wait for 1 day or two, then now go and buy their ticket and off they go. And so the eligibility is that it has to be, as citizens of these countries. That's one. Two, the purpose of the trip. Now, the trip in particular for this program is usually is visa free, like I said, and for tourism and business trips. In other words, you have a business, you have a contract, you have something you're pursuing, you're free to come in. If you want to hang out, you're on vacation and stuff like that, you have some business deals you want to conclude, you are free to come in. You don't need to go and look for visa. You don't need to do, you just fly in. Once you just enter all your details on the ESTA website, and then you're free to go. But it's for 90 days, and it's for tourism and, of course, business trip or business purposes, as the case may be. So in which case, during that time, you can do some transactions, okay? You're free to move around, no holds barred, but you can't walk, you cannot study. You can't walk, you can't study, because for you to walk, you will need a social security number, and within that 90 days, you can't get it. And you can't get it through that system. I will explain a little further. You can't go to school as well, because before you can get into school, you have to go through a different route, even though you are from these countries, okay? Now, the duration to stay is that you are typically limited to a maximum stay of 90 days. Let us just say, you are from these countries and you have a bit of an emergency and you need to travel to the US and do a few things, business and otherwise, then you are allowed to do so. Now, the ESTA requirement, meaning that most VWP countries require you to apply for an electronic system for travel authorization before traveling. So usually what happens is that you go onto the website, put your details there, and you wait for the authorities in the US to give you a clearance. So once they give you the clearance, and then you can buy the ticket from wherever you're coming from any of these countries, you go proceed, buy your ticket, and then you can board your flight the next day. That's what it is. Now, what can they not do? They cannot go to school. They cannot engage in any serious business, as in, that will extend beyond that 90 days. They're not allowed to do so. Now, you cannot go to school because for you to go to school, you will need a proper visa, student's visa, okay? And now what that means is that even though you are coming from these visa-free countries, now for you to engage in studies, now you need to get the admission and now go to the American embassy in your home country and actually apply for an F1 visa, okay? So also, if you need to work, now you will need a work permit before that can happen. So you go through all the processes and stuff like that. So that is why, even though you're coming from a visa-free country, that visa-free is for emergency or leisure, and that's for 90 days alone. But it's a big deal because it's also an opportunity. Do you understand? So, but you cannot engage in any full-time work. No, you cannot, because you need a different route. And now, some of the question that arises is that while in the country within that 90 days, are you able to get married? Supposing you have a relationship, or you've been having some kind of relationship with an American, is it possible that when you fly in from any of these countries, Is it possible that you can get married in the US? The answer is yes. You can within that 90 days. Now, once you get married to an American. Most and often times, the layman's view is that you got to return to your country and then file paper, but that's one leg of it. But then you can still file for adjustment of status within those 90 days. But the point is that you're going to need an immigration expert and attorney to help you through, because now you can, after the marriage, because you're married to an American citizen, you are allowed to file for adjustment of status. In other words, you want to change your status from that 90-day visa-free visitor, you want to move over to green card. So it's going to be intense. It's going to be tough. It's going to be challenging, but you will need to have serious support from an immigration attorney to tell you all the documents that you require to prove. Now, the reason is because if you marry within that 90 days and you file for the adjustment of status, so during the interview, because they will have to interview you and your spouse, now they will want to find out what your intention was when you were coming. They will want to find out how long the relationship had been in existence before that 90-day trip, and what evidence do you have to support. Now, the idea is that you must be informed. In fact, it will be very helpful for you before you embark on that trip that you reach out to an attorney. And if you have that intent, it's necessary that you begin to pile up your documents that will help you during the interview process, because they will drill you very hard, because they will sense some fraud if you just moved into you just got into the country and within the 90 days you've done your marriage and then you're filing for adjustment of status all within the 90 days. So they will begin to suspect whether that was your intent. And so, but if you're able to prove beyond any suspicion that you had or you're having a genuine relationship with the American citizen, now it could take a little while, but it's a good point. You can always get your adjustment of status. You can get it approved, and you get onto the permanent residency ladder, or you get your green card, as the case may be. Okay, so that is one of the very good aspects. So the key points to remember is that when you are coming for a 90 days and you want to marry within that time, now the U.S. immigration system will look at you closely at your intent when entering the country. If you entered on a visa-free entry claiming to visit for tourism, but then marry a U.S. citizen within a short time, it can be seen as visa fraud and could lead to problems with your green card application. Now, it could lead to problems, but it will not lead to automatic denial. So in which case, you will need to prove beyond every suspicion that the relationship is a genuine one and you had been on it for a very long time. So you might have to keep records of all the transactions or all the activities you may, maybe you were involved in with your spouse, all the text messages, all the phone calls and stuff like that. That will help a lot. Again, to stay in the U.S. after marriage, you must file an adjustment of status application to change your visa status to a permanent resident or green card. In other words, I said it before, so that is actually the outcome. That will be the outcome. But they will scrutinize that 90-day visit very hard. Okay? They will go through it. So with the 90 days, now you can also get a school, but the 90 days, it will not be easy for you to get a school and then you want to switch over to a student visa. No. So it's going to be a tough one. So it's always advisable, if you plan to study, then you can get a visa, even if you're coming from any of these countries. You get a visa in your country and then you fly in. Now, when you get a normal visa, then you can change to a student visa while you're in. Okay. Now, but sometimes too, it's also good that, it depends on what you have at the back of your mind. Now, you could rather take the much easier step by applying for a normal visiting visa in your home country, and then the American embassy gives you a visiting visa in your country, even though you're from one of these 42 countries. But because you have other plans, like you want to go to school, you want to get married, you want to find a job, now coming in on a normal visa helps you the more, and means that you took the normal route, because the visa-free program is only for 90 days. It's only for 90 days and for emergencies, as the case may be. Okay, so now even with the visa waiver program, now, yeah, some people can as well be refused entry into the US. Yes, you can be refused entry at the border. Maybe when you fly in and the customs and the excise border agents are going through, now they could refuse you entry for whatever reasons. Okay, so an individual from a visa waiver program country can be refused entry to the United States if they have, one, criminal history. In other words, they were able to find out in the system that the man is a criminal, a history of immigration violations, like overstays, or maybe had come before, you overstayed the 90 days. Now, a serious communicable disease, maybe he doesn't have a good immunization card, because before you come in, you must have all those yellow cards and all that, so they're able to see what immunizations you've had and the injections you took before you proceeded. And if they're not satisfied, it can also lead to denial or entry. A passport with security concerns, if they think that the passport looks funny, maybe it's fake, or they detected it's not genuine, that's also a possibility of a refusal. Now, a lack of sufficient funds. Now, you don't have enough money and you don't have a relative here, so it's going to be a difficult one. Now, plans to work or study in the US without a proper visa. In other words, if you have the plans to come and work or study and you're coming into the 90-day route, that's a serious one. It's not going to work and they might refuse. Or if the customs and border patrol officer believes the person poses a security risk based on their travel intentions or background checks conducted through ESTA. Before you proceed on the trip, you must go to the electronic system and put in your details. Now, they will use 1 or 2 days to go through the criminal checks. So if they detect things that are not good, now it's unlikely that they might want you to proceed. Now, so these are some of the reasons that could lead to they're not allowing the holder of that visa to come into the country. So it's important for so many people to know. Maybe you were from Africa, you went to Europe, you carry now European passport. That can help you a lot. Maybe you live in other parts of the world and you have a different passport. Those passports can help you. It's important for you to reach out and reach out. You can send a DM to me, you can follow me, you can ask questions, you can send me an email, and I'm going to clarify on all of those. And then if you have the genuine intent, you want to stay back in the US, we can also make arrangements, because there are so many ladies here looking for good husbands from different parts of the world. Excuse me, there are different men, some good men here who also want good wives. So it depends on where you are and where you're coming from. Once you reach out, once you make your intentions known, nothing is impossible. Now, let me briefly also talk about, now if you live in different parts of the world, let us say you live in Europe and you have a work permit. You have a work permit. Maybe you left Africa, any country in Africa, okay, and you live in Europe, you have a work permit. Now, from your European base, once you have a work permit or you have a student visa, okay, now it is it is it is possible for you to come to the US from where you're based. In other words, you're studying, let's say in Germany, and you have a German student visa and resident permit that allows you as a student, but you're from an African country or any other country, then while you're in that country, Germany, you can apply to come to the US to visit. Yeah, you can do that application, and it makes it a whole lot easier for you, because the reception you will have or you will get in Germany, maybe if you attend the interview at the US embassy in Germany, is going to be very different from the one you could receive in your home country. Now, a few years ago, I left Nigeria, traveled to the UK. I lived in London for quite a while. I did some schooling there as well. I had my children there as well. And then there was a need to file for a particular application, to come to the US. It was a lot easier. Okay, so if you're from any African country, you live in Europe, you don't have the country's passport, but you have a work permit in those countries, then you can move from there. There's no need for you to either wait for you to go to Nigeria and make an application in Nigeria to come to the US. No. Where you're resident, that place is going to help you. It's a lot easier. Also, if you're from Africa, you live in Dubai, UAE, Qatar, any of the Middle East countries, and you have their work permit, it's easier for you to come to the US from there. You don't need to go to Nigeria to make the application. From there, once you have their work permit, get in touch with me. It's a very easy process and procedure. You will pay some little money, and it's easier for you to come in, because they will treat you like citizens of that particular country. Okay, so it's quite easy. Now, if you have just ordinary visiting visas in Europe, you can't use that to come to the US from Europe. No, it's a refusal. They won't take it. Okay, but if you have a work permit, but you have not gotten the country's passport, now what I'm telling you now is that you can make the application from that European country, that Middle East country, that Asian country. Let's say you live in China and you have a work permit in China. Now you have to make the application inside China. You go to the American embassy in China that you want to visit the US. It's easier. They're going to treat you as a Chinese. They won't treat you as maybe coming from any other country. Let me also say that, okay, let's also say you're a Ghanaian. You're working in Kenya. You have a work permit in Kenya. Now, it doesn't matter which African country you are from, but you are an African, you are living and working in an African country, but you have work permit in that particular country, not your home country, but you're resident in that other country, but in Africa, but you're working there. It's also a good opportunity. Now, you don't need to go back to your country to make the application to visit the US. No, because you have the work permit in that country. Now, it's a lot easier for you to move, because they will treat you like they will want to, let's say, like I said, you're from Ghana, but you live in Kenya. They will treat you like a Kenyan, but you have a work permit in Kenya and you're working in Kenya. It's very easy. You don't need to go back to Ghana to make that application. You make it from Kenya straight. You get to the American embassy in Kenya and they're going to sort it out for you. Now, let us say you live in South Africa and you're a Nigerian. You're working in South Africa. Of course, you have a work permit in South Africa. So you don't have to go to Nigeria. You make the application in South Africa to come to the US. It's a lot easier. They will treat you like a South African. Okay, so wherever you stay, let's say you live in Russia and you have a work permit in Russia, then you don't have any problem. You need to make the application from there to go to the American embassy in Russia, and they will treat you like a Russian because you live there, you work there, you have their permit. But if you live in a particular country and you just have the visiting visa. Now it's difficult. Most America will not, it's difficult for the American embassy in that country to listen to you. They're going to refuse you. So don't even go there. Don't try. But if it's a work permit, listen carefully. If it's a work permit you're holding, it doesn't matter where else you live. Once you have a work permit, where that resident country where you're living, you can make your application to come to the US from there. You don't need to go back to your country to make the application to visit the US. No, because that work permit allows you to live and to work in that country. And when you make that application, the American embassy in that country will check your work status. Once it's okay, they will treat you like the citizen of that very country, and it's going to be much easier for you. Okay, so I want to believe that this information, it has really helped somebody today. So like I will always say, follow me on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, and on Facebook. Share, like, and comment. Feel free to send a DM. Feel free to call in. If you have any questions of any type, feel free to ask. If you're interested in having a relationship, if you want to marry, if you're desirous of marrying an American, it's also possible. All you need to is to reach out. Whatever the circumstances is, now we have to discuss it. But it's possible for you to be in a genuine relationship with an American and you desire it. Then it's very possible. Okay? So I want to thank you all for listening. I want to thank you all, my friends who've been encouraging me. I appreciate it so much. And for viewers, if you come across this video, share, like, and comment. Reach out. There are possibilities. Why I do all these videos is to encourage you out there that you do not need to get frustrated wherever you are. If you're in your home country and things are tight for you, you don't have to stay there and keep struggling. You can make a move and see what it is like other places. You regain your balance, you can go back to your home country. Okay? Because it is only the living that can praise God. You cannot say, oh, you have to struggle and push it through. No, because systems are different. Maybe in your home country, things are difficult to get done. Maybe in your home country, there are a whole lot of challenges. But when you make a move, it's also possible for you to get a relief. And for all those good people out there, you've been working so hard. You need a vacation. You need a break. You need to travel the world. You also need time to enjoy yourself, because all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, which is why traveling is good. Traveling has helped me a lot. I want to be honest to you. It's lovely, and you know, traveling is part of education. So get on board today. Reach out, send a DM, you can put through a call. Follow me on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, and YouTube. Just reach out, make a move around, and I know you will not regret that effort. Thank you for watching. Until I come your way again, it's been your good friend Paul. Thank you, and bye for now.